Not another reviewer.
Yes, another reviewer. Generally, I do video game and movie reviews, but today I want to discuss a TV show. One I really enjoyed as a kid and recently found the complete DVD set of in a bargain bin. The television adaptation of the DC Comics superhero, The Flash. It was on the air on CBS for one season from 1990 to 1991, developed by Danny Bilston and Paul DeMeo, and produced by Petfly Productions in association with Warner Brothers Television. It starred John Wesley Shipp, Amanda Pays, and Alex Dessert. We'll get into why it only lasted one season later. Though I started working on this review for nostalgia's sake, I found out that there's going to be a new The Flash series coming out on the CW, the network that brought you such television programs as Smallville and Supernatural Season 4 and beyond, which makes me think this may not be the best show, but the CW does have its hits, like Arrow, the show that the new Flash television series is spinning off from, and Supernatural's first 3 seasons that are actually very good. We have yet to see what will come out of that, but for now, let's talk about the shitty one. The show stars John Wesley Shipp as Barry Allen and the Flash, a forensic scientist for the Central City Police Department, a man who overworks himself and is always late for everything before becoming the Flash. After his drastic change, he carries the same work ethic over to being the crime-fighting vigilante. Amanda Pays plays Dr. Christina McGee, referred to as Tina, an equally hardworking scientist for Star Labs that offers to examine Barry and help him manage his condition. She finds herself getting frustrated with him over his recklessness and willingness to sacrifice his health and comfort to perform crime-fighting duties as the Flash, as it often interferes with their plans together. She's the source of romantic tension in the show, being Iris's written out after the pilot episode. Julio Mendez, Barry's close friend and co-worker, that's been made specifically for the show, is portrayed by Alex Dessert. His role is basically to lighten up the show and lighten up Barry by insisting he goes on a number of blind dates that always end in disaster, whether it be with an unusual woman or something terrible happens and the Flash has to step in. Iris West, though only appearing in the pilot episode, is played by Paula Marshall. Iris is Barry's girlfriend that worked as a computer graphics artist. She didn't want to commit to Barry and left him in the middle of the pilot, only for them to get back together before the end. But then it's mentioned that she left for Paris in the second episode. They're billed as the main cast, but there are others that show up in most of the episodes, notably Officer Michael Murphy and Officer Tony Bellows, portrayed by Biff Menard and Vito D'Ambrosio respectfully, that are kind of the bulk and skull of the series. When the Flash appears, they're usually not too far away. Bellows is a hardcore fan of the Flash and always notices him, while Murphy always mocks his partner for it and claims not to make a sighting of him until later in the series. I bring this up because these two characters are more entertaining than anyone else in the show. There's also Lieutenant Warren Garfield, played by Mike Genovese, but he's basically just your angry ranking officer that gives Barry and Julio a hard time with their work, and Richard Belzer, who plays the sleazy reporter and voice of the city, Joe Klein, that often spreads conspiracy theories about the Flash, much to his chagrin. The plot of the show follows the Silver Age Flash in the comics, but kind of loosely. It opens with a biker gang causing destruction and general chaos on the streets of Central City, illustrating the general lawlessness of the area. Following that, we witness the birthday celebration of Jay Allen, portrayed by Tim Thomerson. Jay is the head of Central City Police Department's motorcycle division and Barry's older brother. It's here what we find out that their father, a former street cop, is proud of Jay, but not so much of Barry, since Jay takes after his father and Barry's just a lab technician. Barry gets called away to a crime scene, and this is where we meet his partner Julio as it begins to storm. This leads to the origin of the Flash. Like in the comic books, Barry's in his lab late one night when a bolt of lightning shoots in through the windows and strikes him along with a shelf full of chemicals next to him that bathe him. Julio finds him and he makes a fast recovery. The incident inspires him to embrace his life and marry Iris, his girlfriend who wants to keep taking things slowly. The doctor that saw him after the lab accident contacts Barry and tells him that he sent his results to Star Labs, a notoriously mysterious organization that may have been involved in the death of one of their researchers. After a number of odd occurrences, including him missing a performance done by his girlfriend as a computer graphics designer, or whatever performances they do, due to his speed, causing him to end up 30 miles away from his home, clothes shredded and passed out. Due to Iris's anger and finally making the realization that something is wrong, Barry decides to meet with Dr. Christina McGee at Star Labs to find out where his speed came from. Upon meeting Tina, he finds out the researcher that died was Tina's husband, David, who is performing experiments on himself, injecting himself with a sensory-enhancing enzyme, which is what killed him. The night after the tests, Iris comes to see Barry and leaves him. The next day, Tina outfits Barry with a Soviet prototype deep sea suit that can withstand high velocities and adapts to his constantly changing physiology. While wearing it, he breaks the sound barrier and it stays in one piece. Barry's suit is first seen completed with stylish lightning bolt belt and wristbands and a mask as he finds his brother dying, shot by his former partner turned gang leader, Pike. From then on, Barry devotes his time to fighting crime with the power he has been given as an unnamed figure until the public gives him the name The Flash. I never realized how little of a shit anyone ever gave about this fucking show until I had to do research on it. I had to watch episodes over and over and fucking over and take lots of notes because no one wanted to document a single goddamn thing about any of these episodes, and they weren't noteworthy enough to remember more than 30 seconds after watching them. That should really set the tone for how this review is going to go. I don't really want this review to be a big the comics versus the television series debate, since I'm not really into comics anymore and I've only read roughly 50 to 75 The Flash comic books in my entire life. And most of those were in the last week. First of all, there's no mention of the Golden Age Flash, but there are references to him. One that may be a reference, or it's just me trying to read too much into this pile of garbage, and one very obvious reference. The maybe reference is that Barry's older brother, the one that gets killed on the line of duty while going after the Flash's first criminal of the day, is named Jay. Possibly after Jay Garrick, the Flash before Barry in the comic continuity. The obvious reference is in the first of the 2 episodes the Trickster appears in. The Trickster leaves a large gift box in the middle of Central City that falls open to reveal a Golden Age Flash statue holding a bomb. It's obvious the continuity is a little messed up as Barry Allen is the Flash in this incarnation, but after the pilot episode, Iris is no longer around. Tina McGee is his companion and romantic interest, even though she doesn't show up until the Wally West era of the Flash. Her husband is dead a year prior to the show beginning, so there's no conflict with Barry and Tina's romantic tension, and the plot point's never really fully explored with the return of David, who's named Jerry in the comic books, where he does emerge as a villain, but after being defeated and ultimately saved by the Flash, reconciles with Tina, who leaves Wally. The suit doesn't come out of a ring and inflates once it comes into contact with air either. It's now a Russian-made deep-sea immersion suit that was given to Barry by Tina because his normal clothes always seem to tear themselves to shred at high speeds. This is an issue that's never brought up after the first episode, as Barry takes on high speeds all the time in his regular clothing, but they always seem to stay in one piece. Another key difference that the series chooses to labor under is most enemies Barry fights are not part of his colorful rogues gallery, aptly titled The Rogues. Rather, he's put up against unimaginative business criminal types like mobsters, corrupt politicians, mad scientists, evil jazz musicians. It's like I'm watching Knight Rider. Captain Cold, the Trickster, and Mirror Master do come in later episodes, but slightly modified to fit the mood of the show. Though you don't see many familiar faces in the way of his enemies until later on, there are some foes that appear that would fit right in the Flash's famous group of villains, like Ghost, not to be confused with Gentleman Ghost. He uses television signals to strike fear into the hearts of the populace, or Gideon, who's invented a cloaking device that allows him to perform his crimes unnoticed, or Dr. Carl Tanner that uses homeless people as unwilling test subjects to develop a strength and speed augmenting serum. Unfortunately, the 3 villains from the comics that I mentioned earlier are all you get to see. Gorilla Grodd is mentioned, but only in passing and by the show's answer to the Clipper, Nightshade. The next thing that I need to get off my chest is the mood of the show. It just doesn't feel right for the Flash. Central City feels dark and gritty. The Flash is regarded as a vigilante. Hell, even the music sets a mood you wouldn't expect for this. It all feels like they're trying to turn the Flash into Batman, which honestly would make a lot of sense since the year before the show came out, the first Tim Burton Batman film was released to great success. It was produced by Warner Brothers as well. I mean, it has the same look and attempt to emulate the acting style, which falls flat in this case. The same composer, Danny Elfman, did the score, and it sounds incredibly similar. And the villains that the Flash faces, including the ones that are from the original comics, come off more like Batman villains in their original incarnations. The dark and gritty environment works for Batman because he hides in the shadows. The Flash doesn't need this atmosphere because he's able to run in, catch the bad guy, and get out before anyone even notices he was there. That gives credence to him being regarded as a vigilante, being he's in and gone, but never pinned down and identified, but again, it feels more Batman-esque than what is appropriate. Now, setting all of my conspiracy theories aside, let's look at the real facts. The acting is bland and awful, and the writing is just drawn out and boring. There's way too much time spent on Barry and Tina's relationship, like it's some sort of daytime drama. They're supposed to see a show or play or go to dinner together, but Barry has to run off and save the city. But also, Tina's always busy and has to keep an early appointment. It depends on what the plot demands as to what version of Tina you get per episode, as well as what faculty members happen to be in Star Labs at the time. In the beginning it was only Tina, but as necessary a staff member or two will pop up to push along the plot, only to disappear by the very next episode. Unfortunately, Julio is also an incredibly useless character. Not anything against Alex Desert's performance, as he's very good and a likable character, despite coming off as a little too pushy and nosy with sending Barry on the blind dates. But there is an episode or two where he comes into his own. The Flash himself has character issues. Though Barry Allen was always the Boy Scout, the champion of good, this iteration seems to prefer high-voltage electrocution as a means to capture his foes. This only seemed to be a trait early on, and at least one of the people he caught survived, so it may have never been intended to be fatal. I think the worst and simultaneously most hilarious aspect of this show is the special effects. Now, the special effects aren't bad themselves, per se. The speed effects aren't bad at all, but you can always tell when a special effect is going to happen in a scene when the quality of the picture goes to shit. If you've ever seen a movie with a special features section that shows unused footage that hasn't been mastered, looks grainy and slightly darker, well, that's what I mean. If you see this during the show, it's either on a shot that's held after a special effect that has happened or when a special effect is going to occur, and it makes the show even more predictable than it already is. Not everything's entirely terrible in this show, though. There are 2 episodes that feature Mark Hamill as James Jesse with the alter ego The Trickster. His portrayal of the classic villain proves to be one of my favorite things about the series, and though I know he would be overused if he showed up in too many episodes, I don't think folks would have minded it. His over-the-top performance even influences the Flash's performance in the finale episode of the series by brainwashing him and making him his companion. It's a real shame that the only time Barry Allen has a personality is when the Trickster reprograms his mind in the very last episode, and it becomes an endless cavalcade of cartoon references up to and including the Merry Melodies theme. I finally found something in this series I really enjoyed. So, if you find yourself watching this series, watch episode 12 and 22, but give the rest a pass. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Now, if you don't mind, it'd help me out an awful lot if you shared this video and subscribed to my channel. You should also check out one of my other videos where I reviewed the video game Time Lord for the NES. It's pretty good if I do say so myself. Also, I've launched a new channel with the rest of the Geeks of the Roundtable where we do Let's Play videos and release 2 new ones every day. The other link on the screen will send you straight to that channel. And if you would like, you can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. The links are in the description. Thanks again for watching.